The sound of paper tearing is sharper than it should be. Too sharp. It slices through the boardroom like a blade, echoing in the silence that follows. For a moment, I think someone else must have gasped out loud, but then I realized the small, strangled noise came from my own throat. My boss, Richard Hale, holds the two halves of my employment contract above his head like a prize he's won, his smug grin aimed not at me, but at the 12 members of the board seated around the gleaming walnut table. This, he declares, shaking the shredded pages as though they're confetti, is what happens when you think you're bigger than the company that feeds you. No one is indispensable. Not her. Not anyone. The room breaks into uneasy chuckles. Some of the board members glance at one another, unsure whether to laugh with him or look at me. Most choose the safer path. I can feel their eyes on me anyway, pitying, curious, eager to see whether I'll cry or snap or beg. I don't give them the satisfaction. I sit frozen in my chair, my nails digging crescents into my palm beneath the polished surface of the table. My heart slams against my ribs, not from weakness, but from rage that I can't yet unleash. On the wall, the digital clock ticks loudly in the silence, each second dragging me deeper into humiliation. You see, Richard continues, lowering the scraps of paper to the table with a theatrical flourish, when loyalty dies, when arrogance takes root, contracts mean nothing. We succeed because we're a family, and no one here gets to hold us hostage. He looks directly at me when he says that word, hostage. As if my insistence on fair treatment, on honoring what I'd negotiated, was an act of treason. I should speak. I should defend myself. But every instinct tells me to remain still, to let him believe he's broken me. He feeds on the performance, his own power displayed like a magician's trick. Inside, though, I am already cataloging every detail. Every sneer. Every glance from the board. Every syllable that will later serve as fuel. I hear my father's voice in my head, as clearly as if he were sitting beside me. Never fight on their stage. Build your own. Richard tosses the remnants of my contract onto the table, where they flutter down like ash. Meeting adjourned, he announces. The board members rise, some too quickly, like soldiers desperate to escape a battlefield. A few linger, whispering to each other, their eyes darting toward me before shifting away. No one offers me a hand. No one speaks my name. As I gather my binder and stand, my legs feel like they belong to someone else. Rubber and lead, both at once. Richard passes close enough that I catch the faintest whiff of his cologne, cedar, and something expensive. He leans slightly toward me and murmurs, low enough that only I can hear, "You thought you were untouchable, didn't you? Now watch how easily I erase you." I don't respond. Not because I'm afraid, but because the silence is sharper than any retort. I let him believe I am finished. The elevator doors close around me, and I sag against the mirrored wall. My reflection stares back, pale, stiff, eyes wide with fury. My hands tremble so badly I almost drop the binder. I force myself to breathe, long and steady. In. Out. Again. By the time the elevator opens on the ground floor, my face is a mask of calm. Outside, the city air feels like freedom. Noise, traffic, voices, all of it washes the boardroom's suffocating silence from my skin. I walk quickly, heels striking the pavement with precision. I do not look back at the tower of glass and steel where Richard Hale believes he's just buried me. Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know that last week, anticipating this very betrayal, I sat across from my lawyer in a cramped office lined with law books and stale coffee, going line by line through that contract. He doesn't know that she spotted the fatal clause he overlooked in his arrogance. If the company breached the contract in any way, every single patent I had brought with me, 34 in total, would revert immediately to me. 34 patents. The beating heart of every innovation Richard's empire depends on. When he tore that paper in half, he didn't just humiliate me in front of his board. He detonated his own company from the inside. That night, I sit in my apartment with the binder open in front of me, the city lights flickering through the window. My hands are steady now as I run my fingers over the documents. Each patent number gleams like a weapon waiting to be unsheathed. I should feel relief. Triumph, even. But what I feel is something darker. A slow, deliberate burn that no glass of wine can smother. He mocked me. He wanted me humiliated. And that, more than the breach itself, is what I can't forgive. My phone buzzes. A message from Claire, my lawyer. He did it? I type back, in front of the entire board. Start the clock. Because that's what this is now. A countdown. Richard Hale thinks he's erased me. But in reality, he's just set the stage for his own erasure. And I am going to make sure he feels every moment of it. The morning after the boardroom debacle, I walk into the office as if nothing happened. People glance up from their screens when I step off the elevator, then quickly drop their eyes, pretending to be absorbed in emails. Word spreads fast here. Gossip runs quicker than code on a clean machine. They all know something happened yesterday. They just don't know the details. I let them wonder. When I cross the open floor, I feel their stares on my back. Once, people greeted me with nods, smiles, questions about projects. Today, silence stretches like a void. Richard has already begun the narrative. I am the traitor, the one who overstepped. They don't need proof. His word is enough for now. At my office, the glass door has been stripped of my nameplate. A petty move. I slide it open anyway and sit at my desk, where the familiar hum of my dual monitors greets me. My fingers hover over the keyboard, but I don't type. Not yet. Instead, I look around the room, memorizing everything. The whiteboard covered in formulas. The framed photo of my team from 2 years ago. The stack of binders filled with prototypes. These walls have absorbed a decade of my life. Every late night, every breakthrough, every ounce of me poured into patents Richard now believes are his. He has no idea he's already lost them. I spend the morning in silence, reviewing files. To anyone passing by, it looks like I'm working, maybe scrambling to repair my career. In truth, I'm sorting through what belongs to me versus what belongs to the company. Every blueprint I pull up, every prototype, every line of code, I check it against my list. 34 patents. Some are broad frameworks, others niche algorithms, but together they form the skeleton of the company's most profitable ventures. It's almost poetic. He mocked me by ripping a contract. But by doing so, he ripped the very foundation out from under himself. At noon, Claire calls. I answer with the blinds closed, voice low. We've filed the initial breach notice, she says. Clock started as of 9 this morning. Good. She hesitates. You understand what this means, right? You're holding the entire company in your hands. He'll fight dirty. He'll try to make you look unstable, vindictive. He already has. I cut in. That's the performance he gave yesterday. And you? I glance at my reflection in the darkened screen. Calm. Steady. Almost cold. I'll play along, I tell her. I'll be the quiet one. The broken one. Let him underestimate me. Claire exhales. Then prepare yourself. He won't see the trap until it's too late. The trap begins with silence. I attend meetings. I take notes. I nod when Richard speaks, as though his words still carry weight with me. When he jokes at my expense, I force a small smile. Every board member, every department head, every intern, everyone sees me shrinking back into obedience. The performance is convincing enough that even I start to feel the edges of humiliation blur into something like resignation. But at night, the performance ends. My apartment transforms into a war room. Files spread across the floor. Sticky notes layered across the walls like constellations. Patent numbers connected with string. Each connection tells a story. How one algorithm feeds into another. How one device relies on my design. I'm not just preparing to take back what's mine. I'm preparing to break his plans down, piece by piece. 2 weeks later, Richard summons me to his office. His assistant ushers me into the glass chamber at the corner of the floor, where the view of the skyline is designed to intimidate. Richard sits behind his desk, fingers steepled, a predator pretending to be civilized. I was generous to even keep you around after that little display, he begins. Most CEOs would have escorted you out in handcuffs. I tilt my head. For having a contract? His smile tightens. For thinking you could use it to strangle me. But you'll learn. Everyone does. You're clever, but cleverness isn't power. I own power. And I decide who stays. I say nothing. Let him hear only his own voice. Men like him can't stand silence. It forces them to fill the space with arrogance. You'll fade, Callista, he continues, leaning back in his chair. People like you always do. You'll be forgotten, and I'll still be here. The only sound is the ticking of the clock behind him. I let the silence stretch, then stand. If you're finished, I say softly, I have work to do. He smirks, as if my compliance pleases him. Good. Let him believe it. That night, as I sort through yet another file, my phone buzzes again. It's not Claire this time. It's an unknown number. I almost ignore it, but curiosity wins. The message reads, "You don't know me, but you should." He's not as untouchable as he thinks. Call me tomorrow. I have proof. My chest tightens. Proof? Proof of what? I reread the message 3 times, each word sinking deeper. Whoever this is, they know something. Something Richard doesn't want seen. For the first time since this began, I feel the stir of something dangerous beneath my ribs, not just anger, not just strategy, but possibility. Richard Hale thinks he's already won. He doesn't realize a storm is forming behind his back. And this anonymous message might be the first crack in his empire. The number lingers on my phone screen long after the message disappears into the archive. Unknown. Untraceable. My lawyer would tell me to delete it, to ignore it, to stick with the plan. But something inside me, instinct, maybe, or that deep hum you feel right before lightning strikes, tells me this is the kind of message you don't ignore. I save the number under a false name, then wait. All night, sleep teases me but never arrives. My mind races. Who could it be? An employee fed up with Richard? A board member who's grown suspicious? Or maybe it's a trap, Richard's way of sniffing out whether I've started fighting back. By the time dawn cuts through my blinds, I've decided. I'll call. Carefully. At noon, I slip out of the office under the excuse of client lunch and find a quiet cafe 3 blocks away. I sit at a corner table with my coffee untouched, phone clutched in both hands. After 3 deep breaths, I dial. The line clicks and a man's voice answers. I was beginning to think you wouldn't call. I keep my tone neutral. Who is this? Someone who's watched Richard Hale burn people for years. I saw what he did to you. Tearing up that contract, he thinks he's invincible. But he made a mistake. My pulse quickens. What mistake? A pause. Then, he's been hiding financials. Moving company funds into a shell account tied to one of your patents. If the board knew, they'd skin him alive. I grip the phone tighter. Why tell me? Because I want him gone as much as you do. And because you're the only one with the leverage to finish him. I stare at the swirl of steam rising from my untouched coffee. You'll have to give me more than words. You'll get proof. But not here. Not now. If Richard catches wind, we're both finished. His voice lowers. Check your inbox tonight. Use the personal email. You'll understand. The line goes dead before I can respond. That evening, after ensuring I'm alone in my apartment and every blind is drawn, I open my laptop. A single email sits in my inbox, no subject line, no signature. Attached are 3 documents. The first, a series of bank statements. The second, invoices from a subsidiary I barely recognize. The third, a wire transfer linking that subsidiary to an account under Richard Hale's own name. I scroll, heart pounding, as the pattern emerges. He's siphoning company money, millions, through fake research tied to one of my patents. He isn't just arrogant. He's reckless. And he's sloppy enough to leave a trail. If this comes out, the board won't just question his leadership. They'll destroy him. I close the laptop slowly, my reflection caught in the black screen. My hands are trembling, but not from fear. This is it. The crack in his armor. The first fissure in the foundation he thought was unshakable. But who sent it? And why trust me? The next day, I play my role as carefully as ever. Richard strides through the office, brimming with false confidence, throwing sharp jokes my way in front of others. I smile politely, jot notes, look small. But inside, my mind races. Should I go straight to Claire with this? Should I confront the board? Or should I wait, let the crack widen until the entire structure caves in on him? At lunch, as I walk back from the corner deli, Someone falls into step beside me. A woman, mid-30s, sleek suit, sharp eyes. She doesn't look at me when she speaks. "You got the email," she murmurs. My pulse spikes. "You." Don't react. Just listen. She keeps walking, eyes ahead. "My name's Marianne. I sit on the board. Richard thinks I'm one of his loyalists. I've let him think that for years. Why break now? Because his greed has no ceiling. I've watched him gut this company to feed his ego, and yesterday's stunt with your contract was the final straw. He's reckless. He'll take us all down with him. Unless someone stops him. And you think that someone is me?" She glances at me then, the faintest smile playing at her lips. "You've already started. Don't deny it. The patents, the legal clock, you've set the stage. I'm giving you the script." My breath catches. "And what do you get out of this?" "Survival." Her voice hardens. "When this falls apart, and it will, I intend to be standing on the winning side. You want revenge. I want preservation. That's alignment enough." Before I can answer, she veers off into another building, leaving me stunned on the sidewalk. That night, I relay everything to Claire. She listens in silence, tapping her pen against her notepad. Finally, she says, "If this is real, Richard's in deeper trouble than we imagined. But be careful. Board members don't act out of kindness." She's maneuvering for herself. "I know," I say. "But for now, we need each other." Claire leans forward. "Then use her. Get everything. Bank statements, wire transfers, internal memos. Don't give him a single chance to bury this. And for God's sake, don't let him see you coming." I nod, the weight of it sinking in. I'm not just fighting for myself anymore. I'm holding the match over a mountain of dynamite. 2 days later, Richard corners me in the hallway. His grin is sharp, his eyes glittering. "Enjoying your time in the shadows?" he asks. Of course, I answer smoothly. "I've learned where I belong." He laughs, clapping my shoulder. "Smart girl." But for the first time, I see it, the faintest flicker of doubt in his expression. He doesn't know why, but some instinct in him senses it. The ground beneath him is starting to shift. And I am the one pulling it out from under his feet. The summons arrives on a Thursday morning. A thick envelope, slid across my desk by a nervous intern who won't meet my eyes. Inside, Richard's first formal move. Cease and desist. He's accusing me of attempting to extort the company with illegitimate intellectual property claims. The irony is laughable. My patents. My work. But on paper, in bold black type, it reads like I'm the thief. I tuck the letter into my bag and keep my face neutral. Richard wants a reaction, wants me shaken, flustered, desperate. Instead, I attend the weekly strategy meeting and let him preen in front of the board, spinning visions of quarterly profits that only exist because of me. Inside, though, I can feel the shift. This isn't humiliation anymore. This is war. By afternoon, I'm in Claire's office, the letter spread across her desk. She reads it twice, lips pursed. "He's bluffing," she says finally. "He knows the patents revert to you. This is a scare tactic, an attempt to paint you as unstable before the board catches wind of his fraud. So we let him bluff?" Her eyes glint. "We call it." Loudly. Over the next week, Claire files our countersuit, breach of contract, patent reversion, and preliminary injunction against any company product tied to my work. It's nuclear. If the court grants it, Richard's empire grinds to a halt overnight. The news leaks before the ink is dry. Suddenly the air in the office changes. People whisper when I walk by. My email floods with cautious inquiries, half from employees pretending to support me, half from those already sharpening knives in case I fail. Richard storms through the halls like a king whose castle walls are crumbling. His voice is louder, his temper sharper. Twice I watch him tear into managers for trivial mistakes. Fear spreads, but under it, I sense something else, uncertainty. His invincibility has cracked. The first deposition is brutal. Richard's lawyers come at me with every weapon, implying I fabricated patents, questioning my stability, dredging up emails taken out of context. Each question is a knife aimed at my credibility. But I sit steady, voice even, hands folded. Every answer measured. Every document produced airtight. Across the table, Richard smirks. He thinks the performance is for him. He doesn't realize I'm not speaking to his lawyers. I'm speaking to the court reporter, to the judge who will read every word, to the board members who will eventually hear about this. When the session ends, Richard leans close as we pass in the hallway. "You think you're clever," he hisses. "But I built this company. You're nothing without me." I smile faintly. "Then you should have read my contract more carefully." His face hardens. For the first time, I see real fear flicker in his eyes. The next crack comes not from me, but from Marianne. Late one night, she calls from an unlisted number. "I pushed the audit committee," she whispers. "They've started digging. He doesn't know yet, but when they hit those shell accounts, it's over." I pace my apartment, heart racing. And if he finds out before then he'll panic. And when Richard panics, he makes mistakes. The next morning, her words prove true. In a heated board session, Richard explodes at a junior member for questioning quarterly discrepancies. His voice carries down the hall. I don't need to hear the words. The tone is enough. He's unraveling. Later, in the parking garage, I find my car keyed down the side, the paint gouged in a long, angry slash. A childish move. A warning. I report it to security, but I already know who sent the message. Richard isn't just panicking. He's lashing out. 2 weeks later, the moment comes. We're in a mediation room, long table polished to a shine, lawyers and assistants lined on both sides. Richard sits across from me, jaw tight, eyes cold. For hours, negotiations crawl. His lawyers argue the patents are company property. Claire counters with the reversion clause. Voices rise, tempers flare. Finally, Richard slams his hand against the table. "I don't care what the contract says. She was mine the moment she signed, and so was her work. I tore that damn paper because it was a joke, none of it matters." The room freezes. Every lawyer, every assistant, every court reporter hears it. The words hang in the air like smoke. An admission, not just of breach, but of intent. Claire's eyes meet mine. She doesn't smile, but her pen scratches furiously across her pad. She knows. Everyone knows. Richard just handed us the bullet. He realizes it too, a fraction too late. His face pales, and for once, he has no smirk, no sneer, no witty retort. Just silence. That night, I sit by my window, city lights stretching endless beyond the glass. My phone buzzes with messages, Claire, jubilant, Marianne, terse but satisfied. The tide has turned. Richard Hale thought he could erase me. Instead, he's erased himself, with his own arrogance as the ink. For the first time in months, I allow myself a long, slow smile. The war isn't over. But for the first time, victory feels inevitable. The first product recall hits on a rainy Monday morning. I'm at my desk when the news alert pops up. Hale Industries recalls entire line of Neuralink devices pending patent dispute. I read it 3 times before the reality settles in. Neuralink. Their flagship. The golden goose. The product Richard paraded in every investor meeting as proof of his genius. Pulled from shelves overnight because the patent underneath, my patent, is in legal limbo. By noon, the news cycle explodes. Stock prices plunge, analysts swarm, shareholders demand answers. Inside the office, panic spreads like wildfire. Emails flood inboxes, meetings multiply, executives whisper in hallways. And through it all, Richard struts like a captain insisting the ship isn't sinking while water pours through the hull. He doesn't realize this isn't just a crack. It's collapse. Marian calls me that evening, voice tight with urgency. "He's losing control," she says. "The board's in emergency session tomorrow. Investors are furious, regulators are circling. This is the beginning of the end." Beginning, I echo. Because there's more. There has to be. There's something else, she adds. I couldn't confirm until now. Richard tried to sell off some of the patents, your patents, weeks before he tore up your contract. Offshore buyers. Quiet deals. If we expose that, my breath catches. Then he's not just reckless. He's criminal. Exactly. I lean against the window, city lights blurring in the drizzle. Send me everything. The files arrive an hour later. Emails between Richard and an intermediary. Draft contracts transferring my intellectual property to an overseas shell company. Wire transfer instructions. All timestamped before the infamous boardroom stunt. I scroll slowly, my hands steady, though my blood hums like fire in my veins. He didn't just want to humiliate me. He wanted to erase me entirely, strip my name from the very work I created, and hawk it off for profit. The betrayal burns sharper than anything before. But beneath the rage, there's clarity. He's handed me not just the weapon, but the entire arsenal. The next day, the board meeting is chaos. I'm not in the room, but Marion feeds me updates via encrypted messages. He's shouting, she types. Blaming short sellers. Blaming you. Blaming everyone. I can almost see it, Richard pacing like a caged animal, sweat on his collar, that false charm stripped bare. A few minutes later, audit committee presenting findings. Shell accounts traced. Directors furious. Then, he denied everything. But they have the transfers. The intermediary flipped. I stare at the screen, a slow satisfaction blooming in my chest. The man who once stood in front of the board, tearing up my contract for applause, is now tearing up his own reputation for survival. By evening, another alert floods the headlines. SEC investigating Hale Industries amid patent scandal and financial irregularities. I pour myself a glass of wine and watch the news anchors dissect every detail, their voices sharp with incredulity. Richard Hale, the titan, the genius, the untouchable, suddenly reduced to a cautionary tale in real time. But revenge isn't just about watching someone fall. It's about deciding what rises in their place. 2 days later, I sit across from a venture capitalist in a sleek office overlooking the city. He's reviewed the patents, the court filings, the injunctions. He knows exactly what I'm offering. 34 patents, free and clear, tied to innovations already proven indispensable. Why come to us, he asks. You could sell these to any multinational for a fortune. Because I'm not here to sell, I reply evenly. I'm here to build. His brow arches. Build what? A company that does what Richards never managed. Protect innovation instead of exploiting it. And I want partners who know how to scale without corruption. He leans back, studying me. You realize the timing is delicate. Hale Industries isn't dead yet. I sip my coffee, eyes steady on his. It will be. The deal isn't signed that night, but the seed is planted. Within days, quiet offers trickle in: investors, engineers, even disillusioned employees from Hale's own ranks. They see what's happening. They're choosing sides. Meanwhile, Richard fights like a drowning man thrashing against the current. Press conferences, angry memos, desperate pleas to investors. But every move digs him deeper. Each denial is contradicted by another leaked document, another witness, another truth he can't bury. And through it all, I remain silent. Watching. Waiting. Letting the collapse play out piece by piece. The final crack comes sooner than I expect. Marion calls late one night, her voice almost giddy. He tried to fire half the executive team today. Thought it would show strength. Instead, 3 of them walked straight out the door and into the arms of the feds. He's finished. I close my eyes, absorbing the words. Finished. After months of humiliation, plotting, waiting, the empire is crumbling for everyone to see. But I know better than to celebrate too soon. Richard Hale isn't the type to surrender gracefully. No, he'll burn everything around him before admitting defeat. And I need to be ready when he does. The day Richard Hale falls is not with an explosion, but with silence. I watch the live stream from my apartment, glass of wine in hand. The board has convened for an emergency session, and though cameras aren't allowed inside, the press has set up outside the glass tower. Reporters swarm the plaza, microphones like bayonets. The first headline banner scrolls across the bottom of the screen before the session even ends. Board moves to remove CEO Richard Hale amid scandal. For a long time, I don't move. I just sit there, letting the words seep into me. It's done. The man who shredded my contract in front of 12 witnesses, who mocked me into silence, who thought himself untouchable, is finished. But watching him fall from afar isn't enough. Not for what he did to me. I need to see his eyes when he realizes who wrote the ending of his story. The opportunity comes sooner than I expect. A week later, Marion calls. They've stripped him of his title. He's not allowed back in the building. But he's demanding one last meeting. Says he wants to clear the air with the board. I think he's planning to beg. I smile coldly. And you want me there? Not want. Need. He should know who lit the match. 2 days later, I find myself walking once more into the boardroom I swore I'd never step inside again. The same gleaming walnut table, the same leather chairs. But the air is different now. Tense, expectant. Richard sits at the far end, his suit rumpled, his tie loose, eyes ringed with sleeplessness. For the first time, he looks small. When I step into the room, his gaze snaps to me. Shock flickers across his face. Then fury. You, he spits. You did this. I take the seat opposite him, calm as a stone. No, Richard. You did this. I just made sure everyone saw it. The board members shift uncomfortably, but no one interrupts. They're letting me speak because they want this too closure, clean severance. Richard slams his palm on the table. You think you've won? Without me, this company is nothing. You're nothing. I lean forward, my voice steady. Do you remember what you said that day? In this very room? You told them contracts mean nothing. That I'd fade. That you'd erase me. His jaw tightens. Well, I continue. The contract did mean something. It meant 34 patents. It meant the very foundation of your empire reverting back to me the second you tore it apart. And now, Richard, you're the one erased. The silence afterward is deafening. I stand, slide a folder across the table. Inside, the documents proving my new venture, already funded, already staffed by defectors from his sinking ship. Hale Industries will be liquidated within months. But innovation doesn't die with corruption. I'll ensure that. My company will ensure that. He opens the folder, schemes the first page, then shoves it back with a snarl. You think investors will trust you? A nobody who got lucky. I meet his eyes, unblinking. They already have. Marion clears her throat. This meeting is over. The board files out one by one, some nodding at me with quiet approval. When the door shuts behind them, it's just Richard and me. His shoulders sag. The fight drains out of him all at once, leaving only bitterness. I made you, he mutters. I took a chance on you when no one else would. And this is how you repay me. For a fleeting moment, I almost feel the ghost of sympathy. Almost. But then I remember the sound of paper tearing, the laughter of the board, the humiliation he orchestrated for his own amusement. You didn't make me, I say softly. You underestimated me. That's the difference. And with that, I walk away. The weeks that follow move quickly. The injunction becomes permanent. Hale Industries files for bankruptcy, investors fleeing like rats from a burning ship. Regulators swoop in, investigations multiply. Richard disappears from the headlines as quickly as he dominated them, replaced by stories of innovation under new leadership, my leadership. Because my company launches quietly but decisively. The patents that once propped up Hale Industries now breathe life into something new. Engineers who once cowered under Richard's temper now work late with laughter in their voices. Investors who once cheered his arrogance now place their bets on my steady hand. The revenge is complete. Not because Richard lost, but because I won. Months later, I pass by the glass tower where it all began. The lobby is dark, the logo stripped from the facade. The empire he built, the one he tried to use to crush me, reduced to an empty husk. I pause on the sidewalk, staring up at the blank glass. Somewhere inside, I can still see that boardroom, that contract tearing in half, his smirk as the scraps fell like ash. But I'm not that woman anymore. I turn away, phone buzzing in my pocket with messages from my team, investors, partners. The future waits, and this time it's mine. As I walk into the night, I think of my father's words again. Never fight on their stage. Build your own. And I realize I did more than build a stage. I burned his to the ground.